What happens when a hotel CEO trades his penthouse office for a mop and cart, only to find out his manager's been ignoring guest complaints for months? Seth Whitlow stood in the hallway of his late father's flagship hotel, dressed in a faded gray polo, black slacks, and worn-out sneakers. A fake name tag, Tom, hung awkwardly from his chest. His usually sharp brown hair was dulled down, buzzed short, and he wore old glasses with non-prescription lenses. No one would ever guess he was the CEO of a 20-location hotel chain. He hadn't met the staff here before. Most of them were hired after his father passed, and he took over the company. And being a corporate chain with over 400 employees across all locations, no one had reason to suspect the new housekeeping trainee was the man who signed their paychecks. Seth hadn't come down here because of a complaint about broken appliances. In truth, this location, Willow Heights, had been getting average reviews for months, just barely scraping by. But what really caught his attention was the turnover. Housekeeping staff didn't last more than 6 weeks. That was a red flag. And when he asked the district manager about it, she brushed it off as normal for the industry. That didn't sit right. So now he was here, undercover, ready to find out what was really going on. "Tom, you the new guy?" a voice called out. Seth turned. A woman in her mid-30s with her hair tied up in a loose bun approached. Her eyes were tired, but kind. She held a clipboard and wore a frayed housekeeping uniform with a name tag, Raya Adams.
"Yep.
"Reporting for day one," Seth said, adjusting his glasses. She gave a half smile. "All right, let's see how long you last." Seth followed her through the back halls, where the air smelled like old bleach and carpet glue. She handed him a cart stocked with half-filled cleaning bottles and dingy towels. "Half the vacuums don't work, so you'll have to borrow mine today," she said. "And if you need hot water, good luck." "Wait, the hot water?"
"Yeah.
"Boiler's been on and off for 2 weeks. We've told management." "Nothing." Seth blinked. "And the vacuums?" "Outdated. I've put in at least 3 maintenance requests." "Nothing gets replaced." Before he could ask more, a voice barked from behind them.
"Raya."
He doesn't need the whole tour. Just show him a room and get to work. It was a tall man in a crisp shirt, arms crossed, voice sharp. His name tag read, Manager Dean. Raya didn't flinch. "He needs to know the basics, Dean. Basics are clean the damn room. That's it." Seth watched quietly. Dean didn't even glance at him. Just walked off. "Is he always like that?" Seth asked once Dean was out of earshot. Raya shot him a look. "You'll see." The first room they cleaned was a double suite on the 3rd floor. As soon as Seth stepped in, he noticed the AC unit was humming loud enough to rival a lawnmower. The bathroom's sink dripped constantly. There were 2 ceiling lights flickering. "I'd mark this one for maintenance," he said.
"Raya, sige."
"Already did. Last week. No one's come." Seth frowned. "Can't you follow up?"
"Ido."
"Every time. Dean says it's not urgent." They moved to the next room, where the mini fridge didn't even turn on. "This one too?" he asked.
"Yeah," she said.
"Guests complain." Dean tells the front desk to offer a free drink voucher and move on. Seth clenched his jaw. He knew the cost of replacing a mini fridge wasn't much. Maybe $100. But ignoring it? That was costing them reviews, trust, and staff morale. By noon, Seth had sweat pouring down his back. He was scrubbing a stained tub when Raya walked in with a bottle of bleach and handed it to him wordlessly. "Thanks," he muttered. "You okay?"
"Yeah."
"Just. I didn't realize how physical this job was." She chuckled. "That's what most of them say. We had 2 new hires last week. One quit after lunch. The other never came back the next day." Seth leaned against the wall, breathing hard. "Why do you stay?" "I got a kid. And I like the guests. I like making things clean. Makes me feel like I did something right. Even if no one notices." Seth looked at her. Really looked. There was pride behind her exhaustion, and something else, frustration, that no one listened. Later that day, a guest from room 212 caught them in the hallway. "Excuse me," she said, "the hair dryer in my room blew a fuse. Again. And the safe's jammed shut. I told the front desk yesterday." Still nothing. "I'll mark it again," Raya said gently. "Can I talk to your manager?" the guest asked. Raya hesitated. "You can, but he won't do much." The guest frowned. "That's disappointing." Seth watched Dean stroll by minutes later. Raya tried to stop him. "Dean, 212 safe and dryer both busted again." Dean didn't even break stride. "Not my problem. They should have booked a better room." Raya blinked. "What?" "You heard me. If they want working stuff, don't pick the budget floor. You don't like it, you know where the door is." Seth's stomach turned. It wasn't just laziness. Dean didn't care. About the staff. About the guests. About the hotel. And worst of all, he was proud of it. Seth knew he couldn't say anything yet. Not until he saw more. But something in his gut told him this was just the start. He had seen enough to know things were broken. Not just the fridges and dryers. The culture. The leadership. And tomorrow he was going to push deeper. Seth arrived early the next morning, before the sun had even cracked through the horizon. The back entrance hallway still smelled like damp carpet and old air freshener.
No one was at the service counter yet.
He used his keycard from the day before and waited in the break room, which was little more than a converted storage closet with a microwave, dented lockers, and one stained chair with stuffing poking out of a side. Raya walked in 10 minutes later, carrying a plastic container of oatmeal and rubbing her shoulder like it had been bothering her for days. "You're early," she said, dropping her bag under the bench. "Couldn't sleep," Seth replied, tightening the laces on his shoes. "Wanted to see how the day really starts." She gave a small nod and sat down to eat in silence. The refrigerator buzzed rhythmically in the background. By the time the rest of the housekeeping crew arrived, Seth counted only 4 of them. For a hotel with over 80 rooms, that was nowhere near enough. "Where's the rest of the team?" he asked one of the younger workers, a quiet man with calloused hands named Luis. Luis glanced at him without turning his head. 2 quit last week. 1 no-showed today. Anyone replacing them? Luis shrugged and walked off with his supply cart. Seth followed Raya toward their first floor assignments, both of them dragging half-stocked carts. She handed him a short list of rooms and a laminated cleaning checklist that had clearly been reprinted too many times. "Don't worry about the time targets," she muttered. "Dean wants us to clean each room in 20 minutes. It's not possible."
Seth didn't respond. He was already doing the math.
If they had over 70 occupied rooms and only 4 cleaners, that was nearly impossible without cutting corners. Someone had to be lying about the numbers, or the rooms weren't getting cleaned properly. When they entered room 118, the odor hit first a mix of mildew and something sour. Seth turned toward the bathroom and paused. Mold lined the bottom of the shower curtain, and the vent above the toilet was caked with dust clumps. "I thought these vents were supposed to be cleaned every week," he said. "They are," Raya said, her voice flat. "Who signs off on the inspections?" "We don't really have inspections anymore." Dean said it was a waste of time. Seth's chest tightened. "And if someone complains? We get blamed for not doing our job right." They worked through 3 rooms. Each one had its own problems: loose tiles, stains that wouldn't come out, and one room where the smoke detector had been ripped off the wall. Raya took photos on her phone and sent them to the maintenance email. Seth noticed she copied herself on everyone. "Do these ever get logged?" he asked. "I used to check the system. Most of them get closed without action." "By who?"
Dean.
"He has admin access." Seth's stomach turned. That meant the general manager was actively clearing out legitimate maintenance tickets without resolving them. That wasn't just laziness. That was deliberate. They stepped out into the hallway just as a guest rounded the corner, dragging a suitcase and looking agitated. "Excuse me," the man said. "Is there a manager here today?"
Raya hesitated.
"I can help you if you need something." "No offense," the guest said, "but I've already talked to the front desk. No one helps. The faucet in my room runs brown for the first 10 seconds. I showed them a video. They told me it's normal for the pipes." "Is that seriously the standard here?" Raya looked to Seth, but said nothing. "I'll make sure it gets looked at," Seth said calmly. The guest narrowed his eyes. "You're housekeeping?" Seth nodded. "Today, yeah. But I'll make sure it doesn't get buried." The guest walked off without replying. "Brown water?" Seth said once he was gone.
Raya nodded.
"Older pipes. But that's the first complaint I've heard about that room. Wouldn't show up unless someone checked the plumbing directly." "Which no one does," she added. By midday, the temperature had climbed, and the air in the halls felt thick. Their break was brief, just 10 minutes in the break room with a vending machine sandwich and warm bottled water. Dean walked in during the last few minutes, his phone pressed to his ear, talking loudly enough for everyone to hear. "I don't care what the inspector said. He can come back next month. Right now we're at capacity, and I'm not shutting down any rooms." He ended the call and looked around the room like he was searching for someone to blame. "You new guy," he said, pointing at Seth. "Why are you sitting down? You've been here long enough to know we hustle during high occupancy." Seth stood slowly. "We're on our scheduled break." Dean scoffed. "Breaks are earned, not handed out." Raya stood too. "It's legally required. We clocked it." Dean stepped in, inches from her face. "You want to start quoting labor codes? Because I can find someone else who doesn't." The room went quiet. Seth's hands clenched at his sides. He couldn't reveal himself, yet not without more, but his pulse was pounding. Dean walked out without another word. Raya sat back down slowly, her expression unreadable. "You okay?" Seth asked quietly. "I've been yelled at worse," she said. "Doesn't mean it should happen." They finished their break in silence. That afternoon, a new employee named Tasha joined their team for training. She was in her 20s, nervous, and kept adjusting her uniform. Raya guided her through basic room prep while Seth took notes. "Where'd you work before?" he asked her during a quiet moment. "Fast food. I wanted something more stable." "How's it been so far?" "Okay," she said, then hesitated. "Except when I walked in this morning, Dean told me not to get too comfortable since girls with fake nails don't last long." Seth froze. "He said that?"
"Yeah."
I didn't even know how to respond.
"He did."
That was discrimination. Immediate grounds for dismissal. And now it was on record. Seth excused himself to the back office. He used the employee computer system to pull up the maintenance log. Just as Raya had said, nearly every open ticket from the past 30 days had been marked, resolved, no action needed. Many had Dean's initials in the note field. He printed the most recent 20 and tucked them into his pocket. Then he returned to the hallway, where Raya and Tasha were scrubbing down a double suite. Dean's voice echoed from the far end of the corridor. "Let's go, ladies. We've got new check-ins in an hour. If these rooms aren't done, it's your job on the line." Seth stepped forward. "Dean," he said, steady and direct. "Can I talk to you in private?" Dean turned, annoyed. "You don't get to make requests. You're a trainee." Seth didn't blink. He pulled a stack of printed maintenance logs from his pocket and handed them over. Dean gave them a quick glance, then laughed. "You think printing some old requests is going to earn you points? I've been running this place for 5 years. I know what matters." "I know what matters too," Seth said. "Clean rooms, safe equipment, respect for every employee, and none of that's happening under your watch." Dean's expression changed. "Who the hell do you think you are?" Seth looked him in the eye. "My name's Seth Whitlow. I'm the CEO of Whitlow Hospitality Group, and I've been working undercover here for the past 2 days." The hallway fell silent. Dean's face drained of color. You're lying. Seth pulled out his identification and held it up. Not even a little. Raya stepped back, stunned. Luis froze halfway through wheeling a cart. Seth turned to Dean. You're done here. Effective immediately. Security will escort you off the property, and your access is revoked. HR will be in touch regarding the investigation. Dean opened his mouth, but no words came out. Seth turned to Raya. I owe you more than an apology. You've been holding this place together with no support. That changes today. She said nothing, but her eyes were locked on his, wide and filled with something between shock and relief. Seth looked back at the others. There will be changes. Not promises, actual changes. But for now, let's finish the day. Together. No one moved right away. Then Luis nodded. Tasha picked up her mop. Raya exhaled, slowly. Seth picked up a fresh towel and stepped into the next room. There was still work to do, but now it would be done the right way. The next morning, Seth returned to Willow Heights in his usual clothes, no uniform, no glasses, no name tag. His presence wasn't a mystery anymore. The lobby was quieter than usual, and the front desk agents kept stealing glances at him, unsure how to act. No announcement had been made yet about Dean's firing. Seth had wanted to handle that personally. He wasn't going to let a memo do the talking. He stepped into the staff meeting room at precisely 8. Raya was already there, seated toward the back, arms crossed over her chest. Luis leaned against the wall, eyes low. Tasha sat stiffly, holding a notepad she hadn't written on. 3 other employees joined them, 2 from the front desk, 1 from maintenance. Seth stood at the front of the room, hands resting on the edge of the folding table. I won't take much of your time, he began. Yesterday, I let someone go who should have been removed a long time ago. I should have seen it sooner. That's on me. No one spoke. He continued. I came here undercover because I didn't trust the reports I was getting. And I was right not to. What I saw here, how hard you work, how much you're asked to carry, without support, it's unacceptable. That stops now. Tasha raised her hand slightly, unsure if she was even allowed to speak. Go ahead, Seth said. Are we getting a new manager? Yes, he said. But not right away. I'm placing an interim lead from another property for now. Someone with proven results. No shortcuts, no ego. Just someone who shows up and works. He turned to Raya. You've been the one holding this team together. I reviewed your logs, checked your records. You've been documenting everything, even when no one listened. I'd like you to step in as assistant operations lead while we stabilize things. With full authority to escalate any issue directly to me or corporate facilities. Raya blinked, not moving. I'm not asking for a decision right now, Seth added. Take the day. I'll be here all week. Luis finally spoke. We still short on staff. I know, Seth said. HR is sending 2 temps by end of day to relieve pressure. They're already vetted, just not permanent yet. I won't ask you to keep working the way you have. Raya looked up at that. You're replacing more than just bodies, right? I'm replacing the system that failed you, Seth said. Starting with how maintenance tickets are handled. As of this morning, every open ticket is being re-reviewed by our regional facilities head. Anything unresolved will be fixed within 72 hours, or the room will be pulled from inventory. That got a reaction. The front desk agent, a woman in her early 30s named Kiera, shifted forward in her chair. Does that mean we're allowed to take rooms offline if we see safety issues? You're not just allowed, Seth said. You're expected to. If management pushes back, you call me directly. That goes for anyone in this room. Tasha lowered her notepad and finally exhaled. I'll be walking the property today, Seth said. Not inspecting. Listening. If you've got something on your mind, now's the time. He didn't wait for applause. There wasn't any, but that didn't bother him. He wasn't here to perform. The group dispersed quietly. Later that morning, Seth walked the guest floors with Kiera. She pointed out which rooms had been pulled from booking due to unresolved issues: 3 with plumbing problems, 2 with failed AC units, 1 with visible mold in the closet paneling. Dean used to override the block list, she said. Said we couldn't afford the drop in revenue. How often? Often enough I stopped flagging rooms. I didn't want to get written up again. You got written up for flagging unsafe rooms? Twice. Seth's jaw tightened. Those write-ups are void. Anything else like that you bring to me. I have everything saved, she said. Screenshots, emails, timestamps. Forward it to my assistant. We'll open a formal investigation. They stopped outside room 146. A male guest stepped out holding a damp towel and a bottle of shampoo.
There's still no hot water, he said.
3rd day. Front desk keeps saying it's being handled. Seth nodded.
I'm the CEO, he said.
Let me take care of that directly. The guest blinked. Seriously? Seriously. Seth turned to Kiera. Who's the on-property engineer?
Mark.
He's part-time. Comes in afternoons. I'll call in a corporate technician. Today. Kiera hesitated. That'll help. But it's more than just the boiler. Show me. An hour later, Seth was in the mechanical room. The walls were lined with rusted panels and half-labeled valves. The main control board for the boiler system was blinking red. A handwritten note taped to it read, "Don't touch, call Dean." Seth took a photo and sent it to his facilities lead. Back upstairs, he stopped by the break room where Luis was drinking from a paper cup and massaging his wrist. You all right? Seth asked. Just sore. Been using a broken vacuum for 2 weeks. You kinda get used to it. Seth crouched beside the cart. This the one? Luis nodded. Seth turned it over. The roller was jammed, and the motor casing had a crack along the side. We're ordering replacements? He asked. Luis looked surprised. We. Seth gave a tired smile. I'm not above placing a few orders. I'll believe it when I see it. You will. As he left, he caught sight of Raya and Tasha cleaning room 211. He watched from the hallway for a moment, Raya demonstrating how to fold the towels with a methodical precision, Tasha following closely, asking questions without hesitation now. He knocked lightly. Don't want to interrupt, he said. Raya stood up straighter. We're almost done here. You don't need to explain. I just wanted to check in. Tasha looked up. Does this mean we're getting better supplies too? Already approved new inventory. Should arrive by Monday. She grinned. About time. Raya stepped outside with him. You serious about that assistant role? She asked. Yes. I've never managed anyone. You've been managing without the title. You'll get training, support, pay bump, all of it. She looked off down the hallway. I'll try it, but I'm not going to babysit corporate promises. You shouldn't have to, Seth said. And if you ever feel like you are, I want to hear about it. He left her to finish the room and headed back downstairs. By late afternoon, the corporate technician had arrived and was already diagnosing the boiler system. 2 temporary staffers checked in at the service desk, and Kiera got them situated. Seth coordinated with HR to start recruiting for a new permanent GM. He declined every meeting request that came through his phone that day. Instead, he reviewed the photo logs Raya had kept. Nearly 100 images, all dated, categorized, many with forwarded email chains that got no response. She hadn't just been doing her job. She'd been documenting a pattern of negligence that spanned months. He forwarded the entire packet to legal and HR. Then he closed his laptop and stepped into the back hallway, where he could hear the muffled sound of a vacuum running properly, one of the new ones, freshly delivered. He paused beside the supply closet. The door was open. Tasha was restocking the shelves, humming quietly. She looked up when he appeared. I organized the cleaning bottles by label color, she said. Hope that's okay. It's better than okay, he said. That should have been standard long ago. I figured if I have to use them all day, might as well make it easier. That's how change starts. She nodded, more confident now. As he walked back toward the lobby, Seth caught a glimpse of himself in the glass door, still in jeans, sleeves rolled, cuffed shirt. Not the image of a CEO. But maybe that was the point. He didn't need to look the part. He just needed to show up and do the work. The following week moved differently. Not slower, just more deliberate. Seth returned to Willow Heights on a Thursday afternoon, this time without the disguise, without the need to hide behind a mop or a name tag. The staff recognized him immediately now, but they didn't act nervous. They acted busy, focused. But something else had shifted. Two people made eye contact, nodded, and didn't flinch when he passed. He stepped into the service hallway behind the front desk and waved to Kiera, who was walking through check-in prep with one of the temporary hires. She gave a quick nod, juggling a clipboard and a walkie. "I'll catch you when I'm free," she said, not stopping. Seth continued toward the small storage room that had become Raya's temporary office. The door was open, and she was seated at the desk, eyes darting between a spreadsheet and a printed room turnover chart. A walkie sat beside her, crackling faintly. He knocked once on the doorframe. "I figured you'd be out walking the floors," he said. "I already did morning rounds," Raya replied without looking up. 2 rooms with AC misfires. 1 door lock acting up. I escalated them all to maintenance and flagged them in the system. Did they get logged properly? I checked it myself. No one can clear tickets anymore without a photo of the fix. Seth raised an eyebrow. That's new. I added the rule this morning. If we're going to fix things, we need proof they're actually being done. Not just marked off. He leaned against the wall, arms crossed. You're settling into the new role. I'm adjusting to it, she said, finally looking up. Titles don't mean anything unless the work changes. He nodded. That's true. Raya reached for a folder on the edge of the desk and handed it to him. Guest feedback from the past 5 days. I sorted them by topic. Room condition, service experience, and follow-through. Seth flipped through the pages. Most were handwritten forms, a few printed emails, 2 typed letters. Several praised front desk support. Others mentioned how quickly issues were resolved. There were still complaints, of course, but none of them were about being ignored. I want to start a rotation schedule, she said. Cross-train the front desk and housekeeping leads so if someone calls out, we're not left stranded. Will that stretch the team too thin? Not if we do it right. 1 day of overlap a week. And it gives people a clear view of how the whole hotel functions. He nodded slowly. Run the numbers. Show me a draft. Raya tapped a pen against her clipboard. Also, Tasha's been asking about training certifications. She wants to move into facilities eventually. Seth looked up. What kind of training? She's interested in electrical safety and appliance diagnostics. I told her we'd have to ask corporate. I'll cover it personally. If she's serious, we'll register her for the next regional program. Raya's expression didn't change, but she paused for a second longer than usual before returning to her notes. She didn't say thank you. She didn't need to. Seth left the office and made his way toward the second floor. The hall carpets had been deep cleaned the previous night, and the new lighting filters had been installed, softening the harsh yellow that used to make every room look older than it was. Luis was finishing up a double suite near the stairwell, vacuum humming steadily. He turned it off when he saw Seth and leaned on the handle. Those new vacuums don't fight back, he said. I don't miss the old ones. You holding up all right? Still short-staffed. We're managing. The temps are decent. They ask questions, they don't cut corners. That's enough for now. Seth stepped into the room behind him. Bed tucked tight. Bathroom spotless. AC humming at a low, steady tone. No complaints here, he said. Luis adjusted his gloves. You staying involved in this place, or was this a one-time thing? I'm staying involved. Doesn't mean I'll be mopping floors every week, but I won't be disappearing either. Luis gave a short nod and turned back to his cart. Seth moved on, passing two newly hired housekeepers working with quiet efficiency. He didn't interrupt them. He didn't need to. Down in the lobby, Kiera was coordinating a room switch for a family with a baby quietly and professionally. No raised voices, no visible tension. She handed them 2 water bottles as they waited, and the front desk agent beside her typed quickly to reassign their reservation. Seth waited until the family was on their way up before speaking. "You've got that desk running like clockwork." Kiera looked at him. "It's still a mess some days, but at least the clock works now." He smiled. "You ever think about a promotion?" "I think about not working doubles every week." "That's fair." She scanned a few pages on her screen and added, "But yeah, I'd take a lead role, if it came with actual authority and not just more headaches." It would. Expect a follow-up from HR soon. Kiera didn't look surprised, just focused. As Seth turned to leave, the service elevator dinged open behind him. The corporate facilities technician, Joel, stepped out with his tablet and tool bag. He gave Seth a nod. "Boiler issues resolved," Joel said. "But I ran a diagnostic on the backup systems. Turns out the water pressure regulator's been bypassed manually. That's a problem. Can it be fixed? We're replacing it. Today." "Do it," Seth said.
No dirás.
Joel nodded and disappeared into the back corridor. Seth made his way to the small courtyard behind the building, where a few folding chairs had been set up under the shade. Tasha was sitting alone, her lunch container in her lap and a training manual open beside her. She didn't notice him at first. "You're studying on break?" he asked. She looked up quickly. "Just trying to get ahead." "I didn't know there'd be so much wiring stuff." "You'll get it. Raya says you've got a head for systems." "I like knowing how things work," she said. "Not just how to clean around them." He sat down in the chair across from her. "You'll have your first training session next month." Her eyebrows lifted. "Seriously? I already registered you. It's covered." Tasha blinked, then nodded once and closed the manual. "I won't waste it." "I know." They sat in silence for a moment. The hum of distant traffic mixed with the sound of a garden hose running somewhere near the front lot. Seth stood. "I've got to head back to HQ later, but I'll be checking in weekly. Not just here across the chain." Tasha looked at him, cautious but hopeful. "Will other hotels get this kind of change too?" "They will, starting with the ones that need it most." She picked up her manual and said nothing more. By the time he walked back through the lobby, the afternoon rush had begun. Guests were checking in, bell carts rolling by, staff moving with purpose but without panic. Seth stepped into the manager's office, Dean's old post, now empty except for a few files and an unplugged monitor. The space felt different. Not because of the furniture, but because of what wasn't hanging in the air anymore.
No tensión.
No power games. Just room to build something better. He called Raya on the walkie. "Got a minute?" he asked. "Give me 5, came her reply. He waited, watching the activity through the office window. When she stepped in, she closed the door behind her. "You're heading out?" she asked. "Soon." She crossed her arms, not defensive, just steady. "What's next for this place?" "Stabilization."
Irringue à permanent GM.
"Finishing repairs." "Then giving this team some breathing room." "And after that?" "Accountability. Not just here. Everywhere under our name." Raya glanced around the small office. "I don't want this to turn into a story people tell once and forget. I want systems. Real ones. That don't depend on who's watching." "You'll get them." She nodded slowly. "Then go to your job. I've got mine covered." Seth smiled, reached for his coat, and stepped into the hallway. Willow Heights wasn't fixed yet, but it wasn't broken in silence anymore. And that was enough for now.